Hello. Thank you for joining us. This is the Artist Conversation with the Bridge Art Gallery as a part of our programming for Expressive Creative Soul, which is an art exhibition currently on display at our Wilmington, Delaware location. Tonight, we are super excited to host this conversation where we explore the work of Ron E.A. Powell, also known as REAP13, whose paintings combine photorealistic portraiture, sculptural impasto technique, and deeply reflective themes around identity, resilience, and transformation. The exhibition currently on display, which is Expressive Creative Soul, features 5 works by Ron Powell, each exploring different aspects of human presence, cultural symbolism, and personal reflection. And we're excited to do a deeper dive with Ron on these 5 spectacular works. But first, before we bring him on, who exactly is REAP13? Well, REAP13 is none other than Ron E.A. Powell, known artistically as REAP13. He is a Newark born, and that's Newark, New Jersey, born artist whose work merges technical precision with emotional portraiture. Ron attended New Jersey City University in their fine arts department, and he further refined his figure drawing practice at the Arts Students League of New York. His artistic identity is rooted in both classical training and contemporary cultural influence. The name REAP13 comes from the proverb, as ye reap, so shall ye sow, reflecting the belief that artistic practice is both a reflection of lived experience and a catalyst for growth. In addition to his studio practice, Ron works professionally as a senior CME hand engraver at Tiffany and Company, a role that requires extraordinary precision and craftsmanship skills that also inform the detail and discipline within his paintings. His paintings often combine photorealistic portraiture with sculptural impasto techniques, producing works that feel both emotionally intimate and visually dynamic. And once you see the work on screen, you're going to be dying to come and see it in person. So let's welcome REAP13, Ron E.A. Powell. Good evening, Ron.
Good evening, Cheryl. Thank you for having me. And also a big congratulations to Bridge Art Studios on their 10-year anniversary.
Yes, it has been a very quick and long journey all at the same time. We survived COVID, thank God.
That's
Um,
right.
and I called the COVID years dog years. So one COVID year equals 7 years. So
That's the
it's
right.
been a long journey, but so thankful to celebrate the 10th year of Expressive Creative Soul. This art exhibition is actually how we got started. And so we host this exhibition every year to highlight phenomenal artists such as yourself. And this particular exhibition is, something special. And I think really it's probably one of our best exhibitions. And your work is a featured component of that.
Thank you.
So,
Um,
for our audiences who may be encountering your work for the first time when they come into the gallery and when they see it tonight, can you share, Ron, a little bit about your artistic journey and what led you to portrait painting?
I think I mean, it predates back to my family. My father on like gardening and really like being one with the earth and nature, and I felt that carried on for me in my art. Um, just being one with the expressing myself spiritually and um, through paint and through design and elements. A lot of it helped me to express myself. um, I would say a lot emotionally. It was stuff I can be reflective and look at myself and just put that out there. And I love to see when how people and the audience view these worlds that are created and how they inhabit those worlds that are created on these canvases.
And the work itself is, spectacular, and we will bring up some images. You mentioned, family encouragement and exposure. Do you think now that you have, a phenomenal art career, that your family knew that you were destined for greatness by naming you Ron E.A. Powell? And do you want to share with our audience how your name is connected with your artistic name?
Yeah, I'll share. I can share my full name. I don't want anyone repeating my full name, but um, my initials are REAP. Like I said, my father loved, his grandfather and father loved farming and gardening, and that was his passion too. So it's you reap what you sow. So my name is Ron Edward Arthur Powell, and the 13, of course, my birthday. Um, I I feel, yeah, I would say, yeah, they always were very supportive of my artistic endeavors, and I, like I said, it was just a passion for me, and just a way me being, uh, my family, my father, I think he was a family of, I think, I want to say like 8 or 10, and my mom was like 13, so both from big families, but I'm an only child. So for me, this was always, even from a young age, it was always a way of me expressing myself and communicating. And I think that's what helped drive me to really push my my details and the practice of painting and drawing and the technical prowess of everything there. I think that's what really drove me there, just looking back on those things. And it still drives me today. And a lot of it with the portraiture and the figurative works, I loved going to these museums and galleries. And I think a lot of us can relate to this. Um, you see the Caravaggios, Titians, Michelangelo. You see all these great works there, and you're so impressed and wowed by it. But we really don't see us, and I feel that was another drive for me. It doesn't have to be. I feel so blatant, but I think, as they say, representation matters, and if I can be a part of that, it may seem small, but it's so big. I, even for kids at a young age, these kind of impressionable moments can foster and mold someone into something greater later down the line. So I hopefully I can be um, that that drop into the water that creates a ripple for someone.
I love that, and I wholeheartedly
Oh, I can't
agree.
hear you.
Oh, oh, can you hear me
Oh,
now?
there we go. Yes.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree that, representation absolutely does matter. And, the ability to not only go through the museums and see, you know, the great artists, of their time, and the legacy of their work, but also for you to see the vision that you wanted to um, have a career along those same lines, but also beyond having a career along those same lines, being able to reflect yourself and your community in your work for future generations to go into a museum and say, in a few decades or sooner, oh, I want to be like REAP13. And I think that's phenomenal.
Thanks. It's funny. I went to um, Ben Jones's documentary,
Mhm.
The Bigger Picture, this past weekend, and that's one of the things he mentioned, and that really resonated with me. How are you um, planting the seed for that next generation? How are you cultivating that next generation? That's one of the things, you know, we may not see if you're waiting for that change. That's one of the things he said, and I completely agree with it. Don't be selfish in a sense, and think that in your lifetime that change is going to happen right there. Be like a gardener or that farmer. Plant that seed. Eventually, it'll blossom. You know, don't try and control it. Let it grow and just blossom for other people to enjoy its beauty.
Absolutely. And clearly, your parents in naming you um, saw the vision for you probably before you saw it for yourself, and the
I'm
way that
sure.
they've nurtured you in your artistic journey, and now through your art you're nurturing others, and definitely through representation. So let's get in a little bit about your artwork before we bring some images on screen. Ron, with your paintings you often use the impasto technique, where the painting is built up into like a sculptural layers. What draws you to that particular technique?
Well, that's something I looked at other paintings, and even through my own artwork of drawing and painting. And I think a lot of artists, we strive to go for a very realistic painting, very lifelike painting. And it just got to a point for me, just pushing it and trying to find my fingerprint and find my direction of where I wanted to go. I just didn't want to make it look lifelike. I wanted it to feel like it comes to life, you know, and that was a lot to do with just the sculptural work. There was a series that I started. It was, oh man, we're talking maybe 2009 or so.
Hmm.
It called the City series. Is based on a Swahili um, Kanga cloth, and I based designs off of that. These alien feminine figures, and there was about, I think, 60 of these panels that I have. Probably have about 40 left over the years, but they were very sculptural pieces, and I think that was the seed that um, that created that brought forth these other pieces and where I'm at now on this journey. Another thing that lent a big hand is my, um, I guess my other 9 to 5 is engraving, hand engraving. Hand engraving, you're carving, you're sculpting constantly there, and I believe both both fields, like the field and the craft of hand engraving and the craft of painting and oil painting, both fed each other, I believe, and it started to merge. What can this technique lend to this craft? What can this technique lend to this craft? And I think a lot of that sculptural feel started coming out in my paintings there.
Well, we're not going to just gloss over your uh, 9 to 5. You mentioned that you're, engraver, but you are the engraver with
Oh,
Tiffany and Company. So we're going to give you your flowers on that one.
I
Um,
appreciate
so
it, Cheryl.
so when, Christopher gives me like a little blue box with a pendant with his picture on it, it's you who's sculpting and engraving that beautiful piece, which requires a great deal of precision to work on that small scale. Um, and you mentioned that there's a connection between working on a small scale and then also with your larger sculptural paintings. And I know that you know I'm a personal big fan of your work. I think your
I
work is
appreciate
just
it.
really incredible and powerful, um, and it has like it just draws you in. Do you think that um, as you've advanced in your career as an engraver, that that's helped you improve as an artist and with your art practice?
Immensely. And also, too, you got to give Christopher a couple of nudges to get me engraving something for you.
I have no problem doing that. Who doesn't love a little blue box?
But yeah, I think it's helped. It's helped my growth immensely on both ends. Um,
So,
just like you said, I'm working on pieces very large.
mhm,
When I'm engraving, I'm literally doing stuff that could be inside of a ring, you know?
mhm,
So just dealing with these different types of scales and landscapes, and how do you um, create and design and interpret in
mhm,
these different types of canvases, these different spaces, all of that, I believe opens up your mind and helps you find a not only a path, but uh, it helps you with direction on your journey and having your own voice and style, eh, which I'm happy to see that I'm creating works that have its that has my voice attached to it.
absolutely. So going back, Ron, to the impasto technique that you use masterfully in your paintings, how do you decide when to make it more sculptural and when to, I guess, leave the areas a little bit more smooth?
Uh, I mean, that's a great question. A lot of it, in once again, I think that you know derives back to the engraving end. A lot of it there's a lot of planning that goes on with a lot of my pieces because of these sculptural because of that sculptural process, and I'm dealing with oil paints, and I'm using a lot of oil paints. Some of these things take months to dry, and I say dry to a point where it can be presented and exhibited.
Hmm.
Those layers underneath that they're still going to need uh we're talking years to dry, just like the old school Renaissance painters. They take years to dry, but just to get it to that point where the upper layer is at least dry enough to exhibit. um I think it's a Achilles heel in some sense of the word, because as far as like putting out I would say multiple pieces and really cranking out work like
Hmm.
that uh, becomes a challenge. But that's not the direction I want to go in. That I want to go more in a sense of really putting out what's in here. What do I want to express? And I think that's the genuine aspect of it that a lot of the audience loves to see. Uh,
Yes. So I think, two things that we find that viewers who have seen your work in our galleries um, gravitate to, not only the impasto sculptural aspect, but also your use of color. Actually, three things: the sculptural aspect, your use of color, and the energy and emotion that just comes jumping off the canvas. Um, how does color and energy, how do you translate that? And when you're, developing a concept for a painting or a series, and then we can, kind of delve a little deeper when we go piece by piece.
that's a great question. I feel color. I think a lot of that comes culturally. Uh, if you look at a lot of artists, you can see it's really cultural too. You see it
Mhm,
in other countries, let's say more European color countries. They're more muted colors, not too strong. Mine, like my parents and my family, is from Jamaica, so a lot of rich, very colorful. Um, I would say loud, and it commands attention. You know,
I think a lot of it has to do with like just our vibrations. When you think of,
right.
people of color around the world, their vibrations run very high, and when you look at their art, it's very colorful. Whether it's Caribbean, African American, African,
Hmm.
Indian, um, and even Middle Eastern, like it's very vibrant colors because we're
Very
all just
vibrant.
very vibrant, high energy people.
Yeah, definitely, definitely, and uh, and it's not just about throwing it those colors out there and thinking something's going to work there. I think it's even harder at times using very loud colors and still maintaining a feeling of composition and movement throughout the piece. Even the piece behind me, you'll see it's not just, you'll see strong colors there, but it's not just strong colors. It's also the composition and graphic designs that are lending to the movement of the eye throughout the piece. I want that audience to move and just inhabit that world that they see there.
Well, I'm glad you talked about composition and movement through the piece. I think we'll bring up the first example of your work currently on display at the Bridge Art Gallery. I think this piece perfectly demonstrates
Oh,
exactly what you're talking about as it relates to your work in composition and movement of the piece. Can you tell us a little bit about um, the inspiration behind this piece, as well as how you want what is your intention and how the viewer experiences this particular piece?
okay. This and I'm gonna say one thing about the piece only because y- you mentioned it, Cheryl, is energy.
Mhm.
That background, you'll see that pattern a lot in many of my pieces. There's sometimes a lot of subtle symbolism and meanings. I think, like you said, we're all spirits and based on energy.
Mhm.
Everything around us is energy. Everything vibrates. There's always nothing is truly dead or gone or passed away. It's just transformed or transmuted into something else. So a lot of these backgrounds, and this one's a great example here, is it has that pattern there of these like cross-hatched squares there, and
Mhm.
it's just like energy, I would say, in the piece. Everything is energy around us. So that's I place that in a lot of my pieces, in not just for the audience, but also to is reflective to remind myself of that as well. I'll read a little bit about this piece. I said in this piece, it's the goddess of love, fertility, harmony, authenticity, and beautiful earth of the Akan in Ghana and Ivory Coast. In this painting, I focused on hues that seemed indicative of the culture. I built up layers of paint, the cowrie shells, and the jewelry to give it a lifelike feeling. And as a focal point for the painting, I repeat the technique in the hair, not only compositionally to move the eye throughout the piece, but also to give it a sense of power. I feel that hair, it has so much power, energy, history, heritage, um, culture to it that is often, I think, overlooked. Sometimes we say it's like the antennas to the universe at times.
Yes.
Um, and I put the confidence in the model's pose and expression is balanced with the hand gesture, the index finger pointed as one and upward to the heavens. I would like the audience to come away from this one as a reminder that you are valued. And I feel that's a lot of my pieces, I think that's important, that we see ourselves valued. I know there's a lot of, with African American history and all that we've been through. Um, there's other stories we need to push a lot more too, and a lot of narratives, positive narratives that we need. Um,
Absolutely. And that's the, the importance of your work, and as well as the work of the other artists currently on display as a part of Expressive Creative Soul, that it's telling our stories. It's providing our representation, how you as the creator see us.
that's right.
This is stunning. I will say it's been on display at the gallery for a couple of weeks now, a little bit more than a couple of weeks. And the commentary has been particularly interesting around this piece. Um, Several people see Tabitha Brown in this piece, and I had to tilt my head and say, okay, I can see that. And then someone else came in, and her brother is deaf, and I'll let you look it up. But she said this the gesture with the finger actually means something else. So I'll let you look it up what that actually means
Oh,
in
something
sign
not good.
language.
Uh-oh.
It's something in sign language. But
Okay.
many people who view this particular piece love the composition of the piece, as well as like all of the energy kind of pointing upward.
Right.
And
And
mm,
I've done a piece before that was that had to do with sign language as well.
mhm.
So it was called Ego, and it was with the letter I, like that. So I think that's another thing too, is how do we communicate to everyone, how do we find ways to communicate?
Exactly. So we're going to move on to the next piece that's currently in the gallery.
Ah. The Sentinel.
Yes. So tell
Okay.
us a little bit about the meaning behind Sentinel.
Okay. um the Sentinel is an exploration of guardianship and the maternal strength. The figure posts as a shield, watchful, luminous, and unwavering. Layers of sculptural paint and resin form a kind of armor, not just for battle, but also for care. The markings, adornments, and faceted forms act as symbols of history, memory, and resilience, while the upward gaze again, signals awareness. This work honors the protection as presence and love as something that stands, sees, and endures. I think this particular model, I think the inspiration for this is, I would say, a friend of mine, and there's also other friends of mine that I use as, not just models but inspiration. and
Hmm.
and she's a single mother right now, and I feel, just a lot, talking with a lot of people, and her in particular, and a few other people as well. Single mothers have such a strength. They have to play at times both that fatherly aspect and the mother aspect at the same time. So we hear those stories of Mama Bear and
Hmm.
everything, and the strength and the example they need to set at times as well. It's a lot that they carry, that weighted like heavy armor, but protective. The
And
stuff that they may deal with, you still hold your head up, you still gaze to the skies and the stars.
having to do so many things all at once,
Right.
nurture, protect, guide, um, show strength, show weakness, sometimes all in the span of like half an hour. But um,
Right.
it is and I think the way that you have infused all of these, elements, because there is a strength and an armor that's present, but there's like a softness and a femininity to her all at the same time. And then the tribal markings, you know, showing the cultural and ancestral connection.
Right, right. And that warrior feel, and still all of that, still maintaining the beauty, you know?
Exactly. True masters know how to do that all at once.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
So let's get into one that's kind of fun.
Okay.
And it always, the viewers always have like this levity when they see this particular piece.
Oh. That one, there's some, there's a few smaller pieces that I do at times that a lot of them is, I would say a lot of it is experimentation at the same
Hmm.
time too. Uh, I think if you, I'm one of those people, and I say that because I've kicked myself so many times when I realize I'm doing it. You know,
Hmm.
complacency is to me is like the complacency and comfortability is just the path to a slow death. So when I like to go to smaller pieces at times and experiment what haven't I tried yet? What could this direction do? And where could I go with this? So this piece is called Flavor, and it's actually an antique mirror. I was running around. I'd love a little known fact. I don't do it anymore right now because I don't want to become a hoarder. But
Hmm.
I used to love going to estate sales and garage sales and seeing what I could find, there's always some gem or something like that. One man's trash or whatever is another man's treasure, I feel.
Exactly.
So I saw this mirror, this antique mirror, and um, I purchased the mirror. I don't know I don't know for how much, but I ended up painting the mirror with in different hues of blue and ultramarine, and I did a face on the actual mirror.
Hmm.
If you're at the gallery, which I hope everyone comes to soon, if you haven't already, and if you have, come back again. Um, if you look at this piece, and you'll see there's certain parts of the painting that where the mirror is exposed.
Hmm.
So you actually become a part of that piece. You know, your movement, it's very intrusive. I think at times too, which is pretty cool. Um, I, this one is flavors the exploration of surface identity reflection, created oil, creating oil impasto and painted on an antique mirror. The sculpted bubble gum is built with actual gesso
Oh,
and paint.
okay.
Yeah. Um, it pushes the image into a physical space, blurring the line between a painting and the object. By leaving the areas of the mirror exposed, the work invites the viewer into a composition, allowing their reflection to merge with the figure and become a part of the piece. The result is a quiet confrontation between the image and self, where playfulness, texture, and presence coexist in the same frame.
Yes. And it is a very playful piece. And I think the mirror aspect really draws you into it and enhances your direct connection with the piece. When I first saw it, when you first sent the image, and I don't think the image actually does it justice. I think you
Mhm.
really have to be able to see it in person. But I felt like I was 15, 16 years old in the summertime all over again, popping my, bubblicious gum.
Yeah, it's isn't it amazing how these little we take for granted these little moments. Something like that could just draw you back to a time where there's happiness, or another painting could draw you into another type of emotion. I think that's a beautiful thing with art too. All types of art. We're talking music and writing, poetry, everything. Even the food you taste at times could bring you back to some moment or reminiscent of something that was that was very passionate to you or very memorable to you, you know?
Absolutely. And we find that, when collectors come into the gallery, it's when they have that initial overwhelming connection to a piece that,
Connection.
just still that sticks with them, and they'll say, you know what, I have to take this home. Like this is mine. And when they start, claiming it. So you can come in to the gallery and claim this piece or one of the others by Ron, because you will
That's right.
definitely connect with it in person.
That's right.
So we're going to bring up another piece that the energy is on 1,000, Ron, in this particular piece.
Thank you. uh, this one's called a Phoenix Recital. Um, it's oil and impasto on a canvas board, and it's an exploration of renewal and inner transformation, rendered in oil and impasto on canvas board. The figure, closed eyes and lifted, suggests a moment of inward turning, a pause where reflection becomes resolve. Thick sculptural paint builds up the surface with weight and intention, allowing color and texture to carry as much meaning as form. The fiery hair and luminous skin evoke the phoenix as becoming, a quiet emergence into renewed sense of self, shaped by endurance, warmth, and grace. Um, I I loved and enjoyed doing this painting. Um, the sculptural aspect of with the hair,
Hmm.
um, the contrasting colors to really make it vibrate, the blue against the orange, even subtle um, dashes of the color into the frame itself, all brought this piece together. And there's a lot of times where I use themes such as the phoenix. I think for all of us, we go on a journey where we come to a point where which direction do we go? Do we stay in once again in that complacency,
Hmm.
or do we rise above that? And it's really a painting of bravery,
But again,
looking.
it's how you've created this beautiful balance of strength, power, energy, softness, all at the same time. Like she appears high energy and powerful, but also, soft and serene all at the same time.
That's right.
How do you do that?
I would just say a lot of experience as far as just meeting, observing people, and seeing their strengths, and seeing their resolve, and how can I, not only how can that inspire me not only artistically, but for me as a person. We all have something, whether it's artistic or whatever, we all have something to give and inspire and and bring to each other,
Yeah, we all have, very, very unique gifts and talents, that God has blessed us with.
hmm
Um, when you're creating your works of art, do you find that, have you ever found that you looked at a piece and just felt like it wasn't quite there yet, in the sense that it wasn't giving back the energy that you hoped it would, um, emit? And when you get to that kind of crossroads, how do you make the adjustments? What's the mindset and the process behind that?
there's a lot of paintings at times. Well, I shouldn't say a lot. There's a few paintings that I've had that challenge with. One of them, for example, is the Sentinel that we just looked at a little while before. Her skin was just a blue tone before, and I really felt it could go further. Which brings it to a point. to a point I want to make that I hope it helps other artists, it helps everyone else. Be humble, be
Mm,
open to criticism, be open to um, honesty with some of your pieces and paintings. I had to look at that piece and be like, I'm not really happy with this, and how can I push this more? Not just put it to the side or it's done, it's good to go. And so I went back to it, and that's when I added these very vibrant colors to balance off with all of those textures and everything, all of those really rich reds that are going on towards the bottom there, and the
mhm.
hair, the sculpted hair. So and then on top of that, I was like, what else could work? And just that cultural aspect of the tribal art that's on her face, all of that started coming into play there. So a lot of times, I don't know if we ever feel we have a truly finished piece here and there, but allow yourself to be. I'm saying this as hopefully advice to someone.
Mhm.
Allow yourself to be open and humble and honest to pushing yourself more. You know.
That's, definitely some very wise words to share with our, viewing audience. I often say that artists are the bravest people on the planet because you put all of your heart and soul
Mhm.
into your works of art, all of your, vulnerabilities and your thoughts and emotions. And then you put it up for public display and commentary. And that's, a level of bravery that I don't think, everyone fully understands. How much that takes to expose yourself in that way, but the benefit is that you are speaking to someone. Your art resonates with someone where they feel again that sense of representation and being seen and heard and felt.
Yeah, and that's one of the things too. With the art collectors too. I love when one of my pieces is acquired like that, because I know it's going to a good home, and I know it's something where they see those aspects you just mentioned there, and it's something. I think that's such a undervalued and such a big word, such a deeper meaning to this word, a connection. You know.
Absolutely. We had the pleasure of delivering Goddess May Wu, the breath of life,
Oh,
to her new home. And the collector initially, fell in love with the piece. And then she left, came back, and she's like, no, this is my piece. And so when we delivered it, it was as if Goddess Maywu was made for the very spot that we wind up
mm,
hanging it in, the color wall, like it was as if she truly arrived home, and it shifted the whole energy of her living room space where the painting exists. It was if, you know, she was waiting for Goddess Maywu and
wow.
she arrived. And that's the power of art. That's the power of art to transform, spaces and, give it, the missing element. So the last piece, Ron, I want to say I don't want to disparage the rest of your work, but this is my favorite piece right here. Because I think we had agreed on, other work that you would have as a part of the show. And I think you randomly posted this on your Instagram, and I immediately contacted you and said,
Yeah.
this, I want this piece. I don't know. I don't even know what size it is. I want this piece. And I think because this particular piece, resonated with me personally, reminded me of that time when I first moved to, New York, first moved to Brooklyn. And, I was coming with all my dreams and aspirations. And so this particular piece is called Arrived.
Arrived. Yes, yes. Um, this piece, I, I love this piece too. I love the journey and the story behind this piece as well. As you can see, the figure here, the character here is seemingly driving on our way um, to our destination. You'll see, I mean, it's very powerful with the colors, very rich colors, the texture, the sculpted hair. If you're, it- and once again, I agree with you too, Cheryl, with these, a lot of my pieces, it's another thing to see it. It's great to see it here, but it's another thing to see these pieces in person so you can see these sculptural aspects of it. And even with the hair too, with the way the light hits I mean, it's sitting in a stationary photo right now, but if you were at the gallery looking at a lot of these pieces, you'll see these iridescent colors about this piece too. At the deeper end of this, if we go to other levels of this,
Mm-hmm.
um, everything's in color except for her glasses, which she is looking towards and into the future, which doesn't exist right now. So it's in black and white.
Mm-hmm.
And the subtleness of the watch strap, the watch is in black and white, which represents time, which is the past,
Mm-hmm.
and that no longer exists, so the thing of the glasses, it's in the future. It hasn't been created yet. The watch is in the past. It no longer exists. Be in that moment. You know, that's what's in color. In the moment. Be in the moment. A lot of us, and I say that with myself as well. A lot of us, we need to just be and enjoy what's happening in the now, right now, and not go crazy and overthink things or regret things, continue to regret things. That just all builds up really bad energy that'll affect you emotionally, it'll affect you physically. um the aspect of worrying and everything. Just be in the moment. The
Yeah. Be in
universe
the
wants you to.
moment and be in full color
That's right.
of what's, what you're experiencing by, just being in the moment. Don't bring the baggage of the past or the worry about the future. Experience, the brilliance and the power of being present.
That's right.
And I think this is a good piece, to end off with, Ron, because I think it, perfectly um, encompasses all of your work, which is, powerful portraits of presence and resilience. And
Thank you.
so when viewers are coming to the Bridge Art Gallery at 213 North Market Street in Wilmington, Delaware, to see these five amazing paintings, what do you hope the viewer feels when they're standing in front of each and every one of them?
I'll go back to that word again. I want them to feel a connection. I want them to draw something emotional and something from uh, their inner self, that they see a reflection in themselves, from the painting, from the piece. I want them to inhabit that world and and just appreciate the work, not only my work, but the work that's there. I mean, the work in this gallery from the artists that are there. This is such a great collection of artists and artwork there. I remember I was there. I was just circling around uh, the whole gallery there, just going through the flow of seeing all of these pieces, and it just felt like not just a journey, but a story overall. And I definitely have to say that too. It's going to sound cheesy, but um, you know, this doesn't happen with the connection and the communication between the audience and the community, and the artwork from the artist without, you know, all of the hard work and vision that you have there, that you and Christopher are putting out there throughout these years. This is just this exhibition, and this 10-year anniversary is just a reflection of that. You know, you say Bridge Art Gallery, you are the bridge to these worlds, to expose the artists and to introduce us to the audience, you know, and that's something I think we all appreciate, value, and love about you.
Oh, thank you.
I can't hear you. I
Oh,
can't hear you.
can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Oh, I hope you can hear me, Ron. Thank
I
you.
can't hear.
Oh,
Sorry.
I don't know why we're having some technical difficulties. Let's see. If you can let me know in the chat if you can hear me, that would be super helpful. Okay, Ron, can you hear me now? Oh, okay. So yeah, they can hear me. Thank you for letting us know that that you can hear us. And I do want to bring onto the camera the amazing chats that have happened. Co-signing that Ron's work is truly incredible. He's a super talented artist, and we are absolutely thrilled to have his work featured as a part of our 10th year of hosting the Expressive Creative Soul art exhibition. If you are not already connected with Ron's work, you can follow him on Instagram and Facebook at REAP13 Art. You can also find on our social media where we'll tag him often in our work. The Expressive Creative Soul art exhibition will be on display until the end of April. So you have plenty of time to come down to the Bridge Art Gallery in Wilmington, Delaware to check out the exhibition in person. We're so thrilled that Ron was very gracious with his time and to provide us insight and background on his amazing body of work. I think we're all going to be really reflective of this moment and be like, oh, I remember that superstar artist, REAP13, when we saw him, you know, on the Artist Talk with Bridge Art Gallery talking about his practice, because Ron is definitely not only an artist to watch because his career is about to go to the stratosphere, but he is enormously talented. And as you can see in just his explanation and insight on his artwork, he's very thoughtful about his practice, very sensitive to messaging and representation, because that's truly a testament to who he is as a person. So thank you for tuning in for the Expressive Creative Soul virtual artist talks. We wanted to make sure that everyone had an opportunity, those near and far, to hear about the amazing creatives that are participating with this special exhibition. And thank you again, Mr. REAP13, for graciously providing your art babies as a part of this exhibition, but more importantly, sharing with our viewing audience your creative process in developing this mind-blowing, spectacular body of work. So tune in for the next conversation, and we will see you the next time. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you. Bye.